The stagecoach pulled away, leaving Clara Whitmore standing in the mud with three hungry little girls and 12 cents in her pocket. The man she had traveled 300 miles to marry? Dead, 2 weeks in the ground. The town? They looked right through her like she was already a ghost. She had sold everything for this one chance, and now it was gone. But when a quiet rancher fixed her broken roof and asked for nothing in return, Clara made a dangerous mistake. She let herself hope. What she didn't know, a man from her past was coming, a man who wanted her children, a man who would use the law itself to destroy everything she was building. This is the story of a woman who arrived with nothing and refused to stay broken. Stay until the satisfying end. This story will remind you, the kindness of a single person can change everything, and sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the one you were born into. If you believe a helping hand can save a life, drop your city in the comments below. I want to see how far Clara's story travels. And if you're new here, subscribe and hit that bell. Stories of hope and second chances are what we live for. Clara gathered their worn-out bags, everything they owned in the world. Little Lily whimpered, "Mama, I am hungry." What could she say? The truth was, 12 cents would not even buy a loaf of bread. "What do we do now?" asked Ellie, her oldest. Her voice was too serious for a child, and it broke Clara's heart. Clara looked up and down the main street of Copper Springs. It was a dusty town with wooden buildings, a general store, and a noisy saloon. People walked right past them, acting as if they were invisible. Clara tried to ask a woman for directions, but the lady just glanced at their muddy dresses and hurried away without a word. Little Rose started to cry, her quiet sobs showing just how scared she was. Clara hugged her close, whispering that everything would be all right, even though she knew it was a lie. They had sold everything for this one chance, and now it was gone. Just then, Ellie tugged on her sleeve. "Mama," she whispered, "there is a lady on that porch, and she is watching us." Clara looked over and saw a woman with gray hair, her arms crossed, just staring at them from a boarding house. Clara told her girls to wait and cross the muddy street. She felt every person's eyes on her, judging her worn-out dress and her desperate situation. "Ma'am," she said, standing at the bottom of the steps, "my name is Clara Whitmore. I find myself in a bit of trouble and was hoping you might have a room for the night." The woman's eyes went from Clara to the three little girls huddled together. "You are the one Harold Perkins sent for, are you not?" she asked. Clara was stunned. "You knew him?" The woman, Mrs. Jensen, shook her head. "Knew of him. He passed away from a bad heart 2 weeks back. Nobody knew he sent for a bride." Mrs. Jensen looked at Clara's daughters again. "When did those children last eat a real meal?" Clara's throat went dry. "A biscuit this morning." Mrs. Jensen just sighed. "Lord have mercy, bring them inside. I have fresh stew on the stove." The boarding house was warm and smelled wonderful. As soon as Mrs. Jensen put bowls of hot stew and fresh bread on the table, the girls began to eat like they had been starving. "Slow down, baby," Clara told Lily gently. "There is plenty." Clara was so grateful she could have cried. "I do not know how to thank you," she said. Mrs. Jensen waved her hand. "Do not thank me yet. This town is not always kind to strangers." Once the girls had finished, she looked at Clara. "So," she said, getting straight to the point, "what is your plan now?" Clara felt that cold fear return. "I do not have one," she admitted. "Everything I thought would happen is gone." Clara straightened her shoulders. "I can work. I taught school in Virginia before I was married. I can teach reading, writing, and arithmetic." Mrs. Jensen leaned back in her chair, a flicker of interest in her eyes. "Well, is that not interesting?" she said. "Copper Springs has not had a school teacher since the last one ran off with a cattle buyer. The school board has been looking for someone." Hope, bright and sharp, shot through Clara's chest. "Is there a place to live?" she asked. "The job comes with a small cabin next to the schoolhouse," Mrs. Jensen explained, "and it pays $20 a month. Out here, that is a respectable living." $20 a month in a home of their own felt like a miracle. "How do I apply?" Clara asked, her voice shaking just a little. "I will send word to the mayor in the morning," Mrs. Jensen promised. "No guarantees, but a widow with children is less likely to cause a scandal." Later, Mrs. Jensen told her, "I lost my own husband 12 years ago. I know what it is like to be alone with nothing but your pride and your children. That night, as Clara lay in a warm, clean bed, she listened to her daughters sleeping peacefully. The boarding house was quiet now. Mrs. Jensen's warning from earlier echoed in her mind. A pretty widow with 3 little girls, she had said. Every single man for 50 miles will come sniffing around. Clara thought of her first husband, Thomas, and all his broken promises. She had been fooled by a charming man once. It would not happen again. For the first time in a very long time, she had a chance to build a real life for her girls, and she would protect it with everything she had. Have you ever been judged unfairly with everything on the line? That was Clara Whitmore, standing in a stranger's parlor, facing a man who held her family's future in his hands. This story is about a woman's grit in the face of suspicion, and it reminds us that true strength shines brightest when things are darkest. Patterson looked up from the letter she gave him. It says, "Here you came to marry Harold Perkins." "Yes, sir. But now he is gone, just like your first husband." Clara's heart sank. She explained that she only learned of Harold's passing when she arrived in town. Patterson wasn't convinced. His tone was sharp. "Ma'am, why should I believe you are not just here to take advantage of our town?" Clara stood a little taller. "Because, sir, I am standing here with 12 cents in my pocket and 3 hungry little girls. I do not have time for adventures. I am just a mother trying to survive." A slow smile spread across Patterson's face. "Well, you have got some spirit, Mrs. Whitmore. I will give you that." Clara met his gaze. "I have more than spirit, sir. I am an educated, experienced teacher. I promise to be the best this town has ever seen. Just give me the chance." Patterson considered her for a long moment. "All right, ma'am, you have a trial period. 3 months. Let's see what you can do. As long as the parents are happy, you can stay. If not, well, there is always another stagecoach heading east." "Thank you, sir. You will not be sorry. See that I am not." He paused at the door. "School starts next Monday. That gives you 5 days. The teacher's cabin needs a good cleaning. Miss Harlow left it in a real state. The board will give you basic supplies, but you need to see what is there and give us a list of what you need." "Yes, sir, and one more thing, Mrs. Whitmore." His expression was like stone. "This town has standards. A school teacher must be beyond reproach. Any whisper of improper behavior, especially with local men, and you are gone. Understood?" Clara stood a little taller. "Perfectly, sir." After he left, Mrs. Jensen came in with coffee. "That could have been worse," she said. "Mr. Patterson is not a bad man, just full of himself. He thinks I am just here to find a husband. Honey, that is what they all think." She poured 2 cups. "Just prove them wrong. You work hard and teach these children well. In a year or two, they will forget they ever had a doubt." "Mama," Lily's voice called from the hall, "I am hungry again." Clara smiled. "Then let us get my baby girl some breakfast." The schoolhouse was a single room at the edge of town with a small cabin behind it. Both had seen better days, and the schoolhouse roof was sagging. The cabin's front step had rotted clean through, but it was their home. For now. "It is tiny," Ellie stated, her arms crossed tight. Clara looked at her oldest daughter's angry face. "What is it, Ellie?" The girl's voice broke. "You promised this time was different. Now we are stuck here with nothing again. I am so tired of starting over." Clara pulled her daughter close. "I know, baby, I am tired too." "Then why do you keep believing? Things never get better." Clara held her daughter's face. "Because giving up is not an option. I will never, ever give up on y'all. Do you hear me?" Through her tears, Ellie whispered, "What if you cannot fix it this time?" "Then I will die trying," Clara said. From the doorway, little Lily's voice called out, "Mama, there is a man outside." Clara went to the window. A tall man stood near the schoolhouse, studying the sagging roof. He had dark hair under a worn hat and the broad shoulders of a man used to work. "Stay inside," she told the girls. Clara stepped out onto the porch. "Can I help you, sir?" The man turned and her breath caught. He had a strong jaw and the sad brown eyes. A small scar marked his chin. "Ma'am," he said, touching his hat, "the name is Samuel Hawkins. I own the Lazy H Ranch about 5 miles from here. Clara Whitmore. I am the new school teacher." "I heard," he said in a low voice. "Came to look at the roof. It needs fixing." Clara was surprised. Mrs. Jensen sent you? She asked if I would take a look. I have the materials and the time. That is very kind, but I cannot afford to pay you. I did not ask for payment. Then why are you helping? Because that roof will collapse before winter, he said bluntly, and I would rather your children not be underneath it when it does. He turned back to the roof. It will take me a few hours. Pride told Clara to refuse his charity, but the roof was truly failing, and her daughters needed a safe home more than she needed her pride. Thank you, Mr. Hawkins, she finally said. He gave a short nod. You are welcome, Mrs. Whitmore. Then he climbed onto the roof and got to work. Clara went back inside, determined to ignore the strange feeling in her chest. She was done with men and false hope. Her girls were all that mattered. But an hour later, she found 4-year-old Lily with her nose pressed against the window, watching Samuel work. Lily, come away from there. It is rude to stare. I am not staring, Mama. I am watching. He is fixing our house, Uafu. Lily cast a final look at the man on the roof. Do you think he has a horse? He is a rancher, sweetie, not a cowboy. What is the difference? Honestly, I do not know. Now, come help your sisters with these dishes. The sink was piled high with dirty dishes, and dust was everywhere. Ellie grimaced at a mousetrap, a poor dried-up creature still caught inside. The last owner sure left in a hurry, Clara said with a sigh. Love can make folks do foolish things. 11-year-old Ellie looked up from her scrubbing. Is that why you left Richmond? Because of love? Clara paused, rag in hand. Honey, loving the right person is the greatest blessing there is. But the wrong one, well, that can break you completely. How do you tell the difference, Ellie asked. Clara went back to her work. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? A firm knock at the front door interrupted them. Clara opened it to find Samuel Hawkins standing on a brand-new step he had built without her even noticing. Got that roof patched for now, he said, his voice calm and steady. It'll hold if we get any rain tonight. As he turned to leave, Clara called out, Mr. Hawkins, would you stay for supper? It's the least I can offer, and we would be mighty glad for the company. A look of real surprise crossed his face. Oh, I could not impose, ma'am. It's no imposition at all, she insisted gently. He hesitated, and in that quiet moment, Clara knew he was thinking about more than just a simple meal. It is just supper, Clara insisted. My way of saying thanks. He gave a slow nod. Then I would be obliged, Mrs. Whitmore. She held her breath as he took his first bite of stew. Mighty good, he rumbled, and the heavy silence returned. Finally, her daughter Lily broke it. Mr. Hawkins, do you own a horse? Clara started to scold her, but the rancher's weathered face softened just a bit. I have about 40, little miss. Lily's eyes popped wide with wonder. Can I see them? She begged. That is enough, Lily, Clara warned. She is no bother, he said quietly. Perhaps someday, with your mother's permission. While Lily practically vibrated with joy, her older sister Ellie just stared hard at their guest. You live out there all by yourself, Mr. Hawkins? She asked, her voice full of suspicion. I was just asking Mama, Ellie said. Samuel put his spoon down. It gets lonesome. The ranch house is just me. When Ellie noted he had no wife, his voice was calm. I was married. My wife passed on 5 years ago. The table went quiet. Ellie's apology was just a whisper. No reason you would know, he said, ending the talk. At the door, Clara apologized for her daughter. She's smart, Samuel replied, pulling on his hat. Looking out for her family. Nothing wrong with that. He met her gaze directly. Miss Whitmore, I am here to fix a roof, that is all. Tell your girl she has no cause to worry. Clara felt her face grow warm. I know how small towns talk, he added. Just wanted to be clear. With a tip of his hat, he was gone. As Clara watched him disappear, a feeling stirred in her heart. He seems sad, Mama, Ellie said from behind her. What makes you say that? His eyes, Ellie said, they look like yours sometimes, like he lost something he cannot get back. Clara's throat tightened. He lost his wife, Ellie. That is a hard thing. Her daughter's face softened. Maybe he helped because he knows what it is like to be alone. Clara leaned against the closed door, her heart racing. School started in 5 days. She had 3 months to prove herself. She had to build a life for her girls, and there was no room for a kind rancher who understood loss. Later that night, thoughts of him crept in. She pushed them away, vowing to be polite but distant when he returned tomorrow. She would give the town no reason to talk. She would not make old mistakes. But a whisper of a thought that told her that while a promise had brought her to Copper Springs, something else entirely might make her stay. The next morning, just as he said he would, Samuel Hawkins returned. Clara heard the wagon before she saw it, a familiar rattle that pulled her from her work. "He's here," Lily said, her face pressed against the window. "The horseman." "His name is Mr. Hawkins," Clara corrected gently, "and please do not stare." From across the room, Ellie looked up. "I taught her to observe things that are worthwhile. A man on a roof is not." "I think it is," Lily insisted. "He brought more tools and a dog." That got Rose's attention. She scurried to the window, her face lighting up for the first time in days. "A dog, Mama." Clara sighed and walked over. A big brown hound had hopped out of Samuel Hawkins's wagon. "May we pet him?" Rose pleaded. Clara gave in. "For a moment, we have lessons to do." The girls were out the door in a flash, even Ellie, who tried to look bored. By the time Clara got outside, her 3 daughters were fussing over the old hound. Samuel Hawkins stood by his wagon, watching them with a soft look in his eyes that he quickly hid. "Morning, Mrs. Whitmore," he said, tipping his hat. "This is Beau. He is not much for tricks anymore, but he enjoys the ride." Rose was already stroking the dog's soft ears. "He is beautiful." Samuel knelt to her level. "He mostly just likes his belly rubbed these days." Rose dropped down and did just that, making the old dog groan with happiness. The sound of Lily's real laughter was a welcome surprise. "Girls, let Mr. Hawkins get to his work," Clara said, trying to hide her own smile. As the younger girls went inside, Ellie paused. "Thank you for coming back," she told Samuel. "Most folks do not keep their word." "I always keep my word," he answered, looking her straight in the eye. After Ellie went in, Clara explained, "She's learned the hard way that promises are easily broken." Samuel just nodded. "Well, I will have this roof finished for you by afternoon." "I cannot thank you enough," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "This is not just a roof, it is safety. It is the difference between staying here or being forced to leave." He held her gaze. "All right then, you are welcome." Then he turned and got to work. The first day of school started under a cold, gray sky that promised an early snow. Clara had scrubbed and organized for days, making the small schoolhouse shine. She stood at the door in her best dress, praying that students would actually show up. "What if nobody comes?" Lily asked from the front row. "They will come," Clara said, though her own stomach was in knots. Finally, at 10 minutes past 7, a boy of about 12 years old showed up. "You the teacher?" he challenged. "I am Mrs. Whitmore." "And you are?" "Billy Garrett. My father said I have to be here, but I already know how to read." "Do you now?" Clara asked gently. "Then tell me the last book you read." When Billy flushed and could not answer, she smiled. "Perhaps there is still something to learn. Find a seat." More children arrived, and soon she had 23 students, a good start for the small town. She quickly figured out their skill levels and got the day started. "I am your new teacher, Mrs. Whitmore," she announced with more confidence than she felt. "If you work hard, we will accomplish great things here." Billy Garrett raised his hand. "Like what?" "You will learn to read and to reason," she said, meeting his skeptical gaze. "You will learn to think for yourselves. That is something no one can ever take from you." His expression shifted from defiance to interest. The morning flew by as Clara moved between groups of students, teaching and encouraging them. She was tired but felt a deep sense of purpose. Even Billy paid close attention during a lesson on measuring land. During their lunch break, Ellie looked at her mother. "You are good at this. Back in Richmond, you always seemed so sad." "I was not unhappy with teaching, dear. I was unhappy with everything else." "Is that why you answered the advertisement?" The question was sharp. Clara put down the knife she was using. "I answered it because we were out of money and options, and because a man in Virginia wanted to marry me for all the wrong reasons." Ellie's eyes were wide, but Clara stopped her next question. "We are safe now. That is all that matters." She turned away, praying it was true. Jedediah Whitmore was 1,000 miles away. He could not find them. She had to believe that. The school week settled into a demanding but good rhythm. She worked from dawn until dusk, too busy to worry. Samuel Hawkins had finished the roof and left with a simple nod, leaving Clara and her girls with a safe, dry place to call their own. Clara had seen Samuel Hawkins only once since that first day, just a tip of his hat as he rode through town. She told herself that distance was for the best, but she couldn't help looking for him anyway. In the second week, a cold snap blew in, and with it came a cough for her daughter, Rose. Rose insisted it was nothing, but Clara heard the wheezing at night. One evening, her oldest Ellie said what she was thinking. "We should see the doctor, Mama." Clara smoothed Rose's hair. "Doctors cost money, you know that." Rose's little body felt too warm. "I will take her tomorrow," Clara promised. But the next day brought a high fever. She was torn. She had to teach, knowing Mayor Patterson was just looking for a reason to cause trouble. "I will stay with her," Ellie said, her voice older than her 11 years. "I know what to do." That simple truth nearly broke Clara's heart. When did her little girl take on such a heavy burden? "All right," Clara agreed. "But you come get me if she gets any worse." At school, Clara couldn't focus. Her mind was on Rose's flushed face. By noon, she couldn't stand it a second longer. She put a student, Billy Garrett, in charge and hurried home. She found Ellie on the porch, her face pale with fright. "She's worse, Mama. She can barely breathe." Clara rushed inside. Rose was curled up in bed, her chest heaving and her eyes glazed over. "Oh, baby," Clara cried, dropping to her knees. Rose didn't answer. A frightening blue tint had appeared on her lips. "We need the doctor now," Clara's voice trembled. "I do not know where he is," Ellie cried. "Then find him. Find anyone. Just go." As Ellie ran, Clara gathered Rose into her arms, rocking her and whispering prayers she wasn't sure she believed anymore. The cabin was cold. The fire burned low. "Stay with me, baby," she pleaded. "Please, I cannot lose you." Rose's breath was a terrible, rattling sound. Time blurred into a nightmare. Then the door flew open. Clara looked up, expecting the doctor, expecting help. But it was Samuel Hawkins. "Where's the doctor?" Clara demanded. "He is out at the Morrison Ranch," Samuel said, his eyes already on Rose. "A baby is coming. He could be ours." In one swift glance, he understood. "How long has she been like this?" "An hour, maybe more. I was at school." "We have to get her fever down. Now." He was already taking off his coat. "Get me a basin and some cloths. Cold water. As cold as you can get it." Clara moved on instinct, her hands shaking as she pumped water. Samuel took the basin and began sponging Rose's face and chest. "She needs to breathe," he said. "We need steam. Boil some water." As the pot heated, Clara heard him murmuring to Rose in a low, gentle voice, the kind a father uses. "That is it, little one. Breathe slow. Your mama needs you to keep breathing." When the water boiled, Samuel made a tent with a blanket over Rose's head. Together they held her up, letting the steam open her wings. Slowly, miraculously, her ragged breaths began to ease. "It is working," Samuel said softly. "She is getting more air." Clara just sobbed, overwhelmed with relief. They stayed like that for what felt like an eternity. Finally, Samuel laid Rose back down on the pillows. Her color had returned. "She will need watching tonight. The fever could come back." "I am not leaving her," Clara said. "I did not figure you would," he replied, meeting her gaze. "I can stay. Keep the fire going." "You cannot," Clara whispered. "The town, the people, they will talk." "Let them talk," he said, his voice firm. "Your daughter is what matters." Clara knew she should argue, especially with Mayor Patterson's warnings in her mind. But Rose was still so fragile, and Clara was exhausted and scared. She felt so alone. "Thank you," she finally managed to say. Samuel just nodded and went to build up the fire. The night passed in a blur. Samuel stayed, his quiet presence a comfort Clara hadn't realized she desperately needed. Just before dawn, the fever broke. Clara felt the change instantly, the sweat on Rose's forehead, the easy rhythm of her breathing. "She is going to be all right," Clara breathed out. Samuel came to stand beside her, his face tired in the gray morning light. "She will need rest, but yes, she is through the worst of it." Clara looked up at this man who had shown up like an answer to a prayer. "Why?" she asked him. "Why do you keep helping us?" He was quiet for a long moment, his eyes on Rose's sleeping face. "I could not save them," he said, so softly she almost missed it. "My wife, my son, I was not there when they needed me. He swallowed hard. By the time I got home, it was too late. Mr. Hawkins. Sam, he corrected, his eyes full of old pain. Please call me Sam. Sam, she said, the name feeling strange on her tongue. What happened was not your fault. Maybe not, he said, but it does not change the fact I could not save them. He looked back at Rose. But I was here tonight. I could help, and that matters. Tears filled Clara's eyes. Thank you, she said again, meaning it with all her heart. You are welcome, Clara. It was the first time he had used her name. Just then, the door opened and Ellie walked in with Lily. They had spent the night at a neighbor's house. Is she okay? Ellie asked, her voice trembling. She is going to be fine, Clara promised. The fever broke. Ellie finally let herself cry, collapsing into her mother's arms. I was so scared, Mama. I know, baby, I know. We are all right now. Mr. Sam, are you staying for breakfast? Lily's small voice piped up. Clara looked over and saw Samuel pulling on his coat. I should get on back to my ranch, he said. The animals need tending. Won't you at least have some coffee? Clara asked. After everything. Another time, maybe. He touched the brim of his hat, his eyes lingering on her for a moment. I am glad she is better, Clara. And then he was gone. Mama, why did Mr. Sam leave? Lily asked. He looks sad. He is carrying some sad things with him, honey. It is not your fault. Can we help him not be sad? Clara looked at the closed door, thinking of the quiet, kind man who carried so much pain. I do not know, Lily, she said, but maybe we can try. Later that morning, Dr. Webb arrived, full of apologies. That Morrison baby took all night, he said, checking on Rose. It was touch and go. She is much better now, Clara said. Someone knew what they were doing, the doctor noted. Steam, cold compresses. Who helped you? Clara hesitated for a second. Samuel Hawkins. Dr. Webb's eyebrows shot up. Sam Hawkins, you say? Stayed the whole night, did he? He was just being a good neighbor. I'm sure he was, the doctor said, but his tone held a warning. All the same, Clara, you might want to be careful. Folks will talk. Dr. Webb put it bluntly. He said Sam was a good man, but folks in Webbside would talk. Out here, a woman's reputation was all she had. Clara's jaw set like stone. She paid his high price without a word and watched him leave. Looking at her sleeping daughter, Rose, she knew she'd choose her child's life over gossip every time. She remembered Samuel Hawkins, his quiet strength and gentle hands. For now, all that mattered was that Rose was alive and they were together. But the fear from that night lingered, and Samuel, he stayed away. Clara told herself it was for the best that Samuel kept his distance. A man staying the night, no matter the reason, would start whispers she could not afford. Still, she missed him. She often found her eyes drifting toward the road. When Ellie asked who she was looking for, Clara just blamed the weather. 2 weeks later, the weather truly turned. Fat snowflakes began to fall, and Clara sent her students home early. After securing the schoolhouse, she saw the snow was so thick she could barely see her own cabin. Inside, the girls huddled by the fire as the storm howled, pushing cold air through every crack in the walls. That night, Clara's worst fear came true when Rose began to cough. It was a weak, terrible sound. Feeling the heat of a new fever on her daughter's forehead, she whispered, "No, not again." She did everything Samuel had taught her, but the fever only climbed. Ellie's small voice cut through the wind. "Is Rose going to die?" "No," Clara said fiercely. "I will not let her." Just as her hope was fading, a loud pounding came from the door. The door. She froze. Who on earth was out in a storm like this? Who would even know they needed help? Grabbing the fireplace poker, she crept to the door. "Who is there? It is Sam. Sam Hawkins. Let me in." Clara swung the door wide. Samuel stood there, covered in snow, his horse a ghost behind him. "How?" Clara whispered. "I saw your light." Figured something was wrong. He stepped inside, shaking the cold from his coat. "Is it Rose?" "Yes, her fever is back. I did not know what else to do. I brought medicine." He pulled a bottle from his coat. "Doc Webb gave it to me for my foreman's boy. It is the same coughing fever." Clara took it, her hands trembling. "How do I give it to her?" "A spoonful every 4 hours. Come on, I will help." They worked together, giving Rose the medicine and tending to her with cool cloths. Samuel moved beside Clara like he had been there for years, knowing what she needed before she did. You should not have come out in this, Clara said when Rose finally slept. You could have died. So could she, Samuel said, his eyes meeting hers. I could not let that happen. Why do you care so much? The question filled the small cabin. Samuel was quiet for a long time. Because when I look at you and your girls, he said, his voice thick with emotion, I see everything I lost. I cannot watch that happen to someone else. Not if I can stop it. You have saved her life twice now, Clara said through her tears. I only helped. No, Sam, do not, he said, holding up a hand. Just let me be here. That is all the thanks I need. She simply nodded, unable to speak. They sat together through the long night while the storm wore itself out. By dawn, the snow was piled high, and Rose's fever had broken. She was going to live. They all were, too. And between Clara and Samuel Hawkins, something had changed. It was a new feeling, one that felt an awful lot like hope. Samuel's visits became a quiet routine, and with each one, the little family began to heal. Ellie's suspicions slowly gave way to a cautious trust. Clara felt herself drawn to him, though she fought against it, trying to protect her heart. The town, of course, began to notice. Whispers started to follow them, adding a new layer of complication to the fragile bond they were building. Each shared glance and quiet conversation was like laying a stone in a foundation for something that was not yet built. The storm finally broke after 3 long days. Samuel knew he had to leave before the town was fully awake and asking questions he could not answer. I will send someone to check on y'all later, he said at the door. You make sure you have everything you need. You do not have to do that. I know, he said, and the look in his eyes made her heart skip. I want to. Then he was gone, a dark shape moving through the deep snow. Mama? Lily's small voice came from behind her. Is Mr. Sam coming back? I do not know, sweet girl. I hope so. He is nice. He held my hand when I was scared during the storm. Clara turned, surprised. When did he do that? When you were sleeping. He said everything was going to be all right. And then I was not scared anymore. Clara's throat grew tight. She had been so focused on Rose, she had not even realized Lily was afraid. That was very kind of him. I know, Lily said with a gap-toothed smile. That is why I like him. Clara looked back out the window. She was beginning to like him too, and that was the problem. The talk spread through town just as she feared it would. When she went to collect eggs from the boarding house, Mrs. Jensen pulled her aside. People are talking, Clara. You need to know what they are saying. I can imagine, can you? Her friend asked gently. They are saying you are already warming his bed, that you came here to find a husband and set your cap for the richest man around. Clara's face burned with shame. That is not true. Rose was sick. He was just helping. I know that, and you know that. But in a town this small, the truth does not always matter. What am I supposed to do? Let my child die to protect my good name? Of course not, Mrs. Jensen said, touching her arm. I am just warning you. Patterson is already sniffing around for a reason to cause you trouble. Clara understood. I will be more careful, she said, the words tasting like ash. I will keep my distance from Mr. Hawkins. That would be wise. Clara left with her eggs, her jaw set tight against the unfairness of it all. Samuel had saved her child's life, and now they were both being punished for it by gossiping tongues. But she could not afford to fight back. Not with her dom and her daughters on the line. She would have to stay away. But Samuel Hawkins apparently had other plans. He showed up at the schoolhouse 3 days later as children were heading home. Mr. Hawkins, Clara said, keeping her voice steady, aware of all the eyes watching them. I came to check on Rose. She is much better, thank you. Good, he seemed a little nervous. I also brought something for the girls. He nodded toward his wagon where a big brown dog stood waiting. Bo, Mama, it is Bo, Lily cried out with joy. Before Clara could stop her, she ran to the old hound who wagged his tail slowly. I thought, Samuel said, that the girls might like having a dog around. For protection. Mr. Hawkins, I cannot accept such a thing. He is an old dog, Clara. Not much trouble. But he has a good loud bark. I would rest easier knowing he was here watching over y'all. By then, Rose and Ellie had joined Lily. All three were petting the gentle animal. Even Ellie, who was always so reserved, was smiling as the old dog licked her hand. Please, Mama, Lily begged. Can we please keep him? Clara looked from her daughter's hopeful faces to Samuel's steady gaze, and then at the watching town. Every instinct told her to say no, to send him away and end the gossip. Instead, she heard herself say, "All right, he can stay." Lily let out a shriek of pure happiness. Rose laughed, and Ellie looked right at Samuel. "Thank you, Mr. Hawkins," she said quietly. "This is very kind." "He likes the spot by the fire," Samuel told them. "And do not give him chicken bones." He tipped his hat to Clara and turned to leave. "Wait," Clara called out. "Won't you stay for some coffee?" The invitation hung in the air between them, a risky move in front of the whole town. "Just for a little," she added quickly. "The girls will want to know how to take care of Beau." A small smile touched his lips. Well, if it is for the girls. They had coffee inside the schoolhouse, a public place, safer from wagging tongues. Samuel looked like a giant sitting at a tiny student desk as the girls gathered at his feet, asking 100 questions about their new friend. You ever feel like you're just surviving instead of living? That's where Clara Whitmore was, a school teacher raising 3 girls all on her own, scared to hope for more. Then a quiet rancher named Samuel Hawkins showed up with a 14-year-old dog named Beau. When her daughter Lily asked why he didn't have kids, Samuel's answer changed everything. He told them he had a son once, but the baby didn't make it. Lily's face just fell. "That's so sad," she whispered. Samuel looked right at Clara and said, "It was, but what matters is what we do after the sad things happen." He built a life, and now he was giving a dog to a family who needed one. That's when little Rose, who never spoke to strangers, reached out and touched his hand. In that moment, Clara saw the good wounded man behind the rugged face and wondered what in the world she was going to do about him. After that, Samuel always found a reason to be in town. He'd check on Beau, bring extra firewood, or fix a loose shutter at the schoolhouse. Each time, the girls would flock to him, and Clara felt herself falling. Her friend Mrs. Jensen saw it plain as day. "That man is sweet on you," she said while they baked bread. "Friends don't look at each other the way he looks at you." When Clara asked how he looked at her, Mrs. Jensen smiled. "Like you hung the moon and stars. Like you're the first sunrise he's seen in years." Clara protested, saying her job depended on her being proper. But her friend was firm. "You've been alone for 2 years raising 3 daughters. You deserve a partner, Clara. The question is, are you brave enough to accept one?" That night, Clara couldn't stop thinking about it. A life where she wasn't so alone, with strong hands to help carry the load. The thought was so tempting, it scared her. Soon spring came, and the students got restless. Billy Garrett had a bright idea. "We should take a field trip to the Hawkins Ranch. We could learn about horses. It's educational." All 23 students looked at her with hopeful eyes. Cornered, Clara heard her own girls begging, "Please, Mama, can we see Mr. Sam's horses?" She knew she was ambushed. "All right," she sighed, giving in to the cheers. "I will ask." Of course, Samuel said yes right away. "I'd be happy to teach the young folks about horses," he told her after church. He even suggested her girls come out early for a special tour. The day of the trip was filled with sunshine and the smell of horses and hay. Samuel was a natural teacher, patient and kind with all the children. Afterward, they all gathered inside his warm ranch house for lemonade. Samuel and Clara were talking near the fireplace when Samuel just looked at her, his eyes full of a quiet warmth that made her forget to breathe. "Clara, your girls ask about my horses every time. I figured I should satisfy their curiosity." Clara couldn't help but laugh. "She is a persistent one. She is wonderful. All 3 of them are." Samuel's gaze was warm. "You have done a fine job raising them, Clara. I just did what needed to be done. That is more than most folks can say." He stepped a little closer. "I know the town is talking, and it is causing you problems. If you need me to stay away—" "No," she said, maybe too quickly. "I mean, the girls would surely be disappointed. They have grown fond of you." "Just the girls?" The question hung in the air between them. Clara's heart started to race. "I should go. The girls are waiting for me." She turned and walked away before he could answer, her face feeling hot. It was not just the girls who had grown attached, and that scared her more than anything. The field trip went better than Clara could have ever dreamed. Samuel showed the children his entire operation. He was a patient teacher, and every student listened closely. But for Clara's daughters, the riding lessons were the main event. Samuel carefully lifted each one of them onto a gentle mare he called Penny. He led them around the corral, showing them how to hold the reins and how to sit tall. Lily squealed with pure joy, her earlier fears all gone. Rose, who was normally so shy, sat up straight and proud with a big smile. And then there was Ellie. She took to riding like she was born for it. She is a natural, Samuel said quietly to Clara. I have seen plenty of riders, but not many learn that fast. She has always been a determined child. I wonder where she gets that from. Clara felt her cheeks flush. I am not sure what you mean. Oh, I think you do. Samuel's voice was soft. You are the most determined woman I have ever known. You came here with 3 children and built a life from nothing. I did not have a choice. We all have choices. You chose to stand and fight. That is something to be proud of. Clara was speechless. She just stood there watching her daughter ride, feeling the warmth of Samuel's presence right beside her. Mama, look, Lily shouted. Ellie is going so fast. I see her, sweetheart. Can I go that fast too? Maybe when you are a little bigger. But I want to be bigger now. Samuel let out a deep, warm laugh, the first one Clara had ever heard from him. That sound made her chest feel full and empty all at once. Patience, little one, he called over to Lily. Good things come to those who wait. Lily pouted for a moment before she started laughing again. Clara turned to Samuel. Thank you, she said softly, for all of this. Do not thank me yet. The day is not over. He paused for a second. I was hoping you and the girls might stay for supper. Mrs. Everett has been cooking all afternoon. It would just be a friendly meal. Nothing improper. Friend. The word felt like a small, white lie. All right, Clara heard herself say. We will stay. Supper was a wonderful surprise. Samuel's home was well-built and cozy. His housekeeper, Mrs. Everett, served a delicious roast chicken, and the apple pie made Lily hum with happiness. This is the best pie I have ever eaten, Lily declared. Even better than Mrs. Jensen's pie. Now do not you tell Mrs. Jensen that, Clara warned her. She might quit feeding us. I will just tell her Mrs. Everett's pie is almost as good, Lily negotiated. Samuel just smiled at her clever choice of words. After supper, they all moved into the parlor. Samuel showed the girls his books. Rose went straight for the poetry, while Lily made Samuel read her a picture book about horses. Ellie, however, walked over to the fireplace. A small photograph was sitting on the mantel. Is this your wife? She asked. The room fell silent. Samuel walked over to stand next to her. Yes, that is Mary. She was very pretty. She was beautiful inside and out, he said, picking up the picture. She would have loved you girls. Is that why you never married again? Because you still love her? Ellie, Clara said with a sharp tone. That is too personal. It is all right, Samuel said gently. I suppose I did not remarry because I felt I did not deserve to be happy again. My wife and our son, they passed because I was not there to help them. That is a hard thing to forgive yourself for. But it was not your fault, Ellie stated plainly. You could not have known. No, I couldn't have, he agreed. But knowing something in your head and believing it in your heart are 2 different things. My father drank, Ellie said suddenly. Mama says we should not speak ill of the dead, but he did. And sometimes I was glad when he was gone. Ellie, Clara's voice was barely a whisper. I know that is a wrong way to feel, Ellie went on, but I cannot help it. Does that make me a bad person? Samuel knelt down to look her right in the eyes. Feelings are not right or wrong, Ellie. They just are. What we do with them is what matters. He paused. Your father caused you and your family a lot of pain. Being relieved that the pain is gone does not make you a bad person. It just makes you human. Tears welled up in Ellie's eyes. I am just so tired of being angry at him. Then let it go, Samuel said softly. Do it for yourself. You have a wonderful mother and 2 sisters who adore you. Do not let your father's ghost take any more of your life. Ellie wiped her eyes on her sleeve and nodded. I will try. That is all any of us can ever do. Clara watched them with tears streaming down her own face. This quiet, kind man had just given her daughter a gift she never could. When Ellie rejoined her sisters, Samuel stood up and met Clara's gaze. I am sorry, he said. I did not mean to overstep. Clara crossed the room in 3 steps and wrapped her arms around him. It was not proper at all, but she did not care. She buried her face in his shirt and just let him hold her. His arms came around her slowly as if she were fragile. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for saying the words I could not find. I know this is complicated," he started. "We should not, but I am so tired of being alone, Sam. I am so tired of having to be strong all the time." "You do not have to be alone," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Not anymore. I am scared." "I know," he said. "Me too." He gently held her face in his hands. "But maybe we could be scared together." A small, tearful laugh escaped her. "That is not very romantic." "I never said I was a poet," he answered, his thumb brushing her cheek. "But I mean every single word. I am not asking for anything you are not ready for. I just want you to know that I am here, and I am not going anywhere." "What about the town? All the gossip? Let them talk. I have spent 5 years worrying about what other people think, and it has only brought me loneliness." He stepped back but kept hold of her hands. "I am done hiding, Clara. What is it that you want?" "You," he said simply. "You and your girls. I want to build a real life with you." Clara's heart was hammering in her chest. "I am not an easy person," she warned. "I am stubborn and proud, and I have 3 daughters who come first." "Good thing I am a patient man," he said with a small smile, "and I happen to like stubborn, proud women." That's when Lily's voice cut through the chatter. "Mama, are you and Mr. Sam gonna kiss now?" Clara's face went hot as a firecracker. Ellie chimed in, "When people look at each other all moony-eyed like that, they're supposed to kiss. It's in the books." Rose shrieked that those were her books, and suddenly the girls were fussing and arguing. Through it all, Samuel just laughed, a deep, genuine sound of pure joy. In that beautiful, messy chaos, Clara realized what she was missing. Not just survival, but real, wonderful life. When he offered to drive them home, she finally let her guard down. She put her hand in his and said, "All right, Samuel, take us home." The wagon ride back was quiet, with the girls asleep in the back. The whole Montana sky was filled with stars. "Clara," Samuel said softly, his eyes on the road, "I meant what I said. I want to build something with you. I know it's fast, but I've spent 5 years being afraid. I am done running." Clara whispered, "What if I'm not ready?" He glanced over, a small smile on his face. "Then I'll wait. I told you I'm patient." She leaned her head on his shoulder. For the first time in years, the future didn't feel like something to fear. It felt like a promise. And as Samuel kept visiting, bringing books for Rose and his steady kindness for Clara, she knew that surviving was finally over. It was time to start living and get in the way. Instead, something new started to grow. "Folks are starting to notice," Clara said one afternoon, watching her girls play. "Mrs. Patterson gave me a look in church last Sunday." "That's just her face, darling." "Sam, I am serious." "So am I," he said, taking her hand right out in the open. "I am done hiding. Let them talk. What we have is nothing to be ashamed of." "And what is it that we have?" The question had been sitting on her heart for days. He turned to her, his gaze steady. "I want to court you, Clara. A proper courtship. Sunday dinners, buggy rides, and if you are willing, something that lasts." "You mean marriage?" "I mean my intentions are to be here for you and your daughters. To earn your trust and, God willing, be the father they deserve and the partner you need." He said it plain and simple, a truth she could hold on to. "I would like that," Clara whispered. "The courting, I mean." "That is more than enough for now," he said, squeezing her hand. That night, Ellie asked, "So is Mr. Sam your beau now?" "He is courting me. It is an old-fashioned idea, I know." "I like it," Ellie said, meeting her eyes in the mirror. "He is not like father." Clara's hand stopped brushing. "No, he is not. Father never looked at you the way Mr. Sam does, like you matter. Your father loved me in his own way, Ellie. Or did he just like having someone to take care of him?" Clara had no answer. The love she once shared with Thomas had soured long ago. "Mr. Sam is different," Ellie went on. "He listens. He is kind to us." "Hey," Lily piped up from the bed. "Enough, you two," Clara said gently. "Ellie, I am glad you approve, but we are taking this slow. Your needs come first." "I know, Mama," Ellie's voice softened, "but maybe it is okay if your needs matter too." Clara's throat tightened. Her little girl was growing up too fast. The stranger arrived in Copper Springs on a Tuesday. He was a well-dressed man on a fine horse, far too polished for their dusty town. He dismounted at the general store, and something about the way he moved made Clara's skin prickle with a cold dread. As she gathered her daughters from school, she felt his eyes on her. "Mama," Rose said, tugging her sleeve, "you look scared." "Just tired, baby. Let us go home." She hurried them away, trying to ignore the stranger's gaze burning into her back. That night, she dreamed of Virginia, of old debts, and a man's voice saying, "You cannot run forever, Clara." 3 days later, he appeared at the schoolhouse door. "Mrs. Whitmore." He tipped his hat, revealing slicked back hair, the same dark brown as Thomas's had been. "I am Jeb, Thomas's brother. I have come a long way to find you." The room seemed to spin. "Children," she said, her voice surprisingly calm, "continue your reading." Outside, the sunshine felt like a lie. "What do you want?" "That is a fine hello for family," Jeb said with a smile that never reached his eyes. "We have all been worried. You just vanished." "I left word with my father. He only knew you were headed west. It took me 3 months to track you down. You covered your tracks mighty well. Maybe I did not want to be found." "But why, Clara? What were you running from?" She wanted to scream, "You," but she had no proof, only the memory of his lingering glances and unsettling words after Thomas died. "I wanted a fresh start," she said instead, "for my girls and me." "What about Thomas's land?" Jeb's eyebrows shot up. "That was sold to pay his debts." "Not all of it," he said, and a coldness slid into his voice. "There was a small piece up in the hills. Turns out the railroad is planning to run a line right through it. The value has shot up something fierce." Clara's stomach turned to ice. "As his widow, you have a claim," Jeb continued, "but a court might find a woman who ran off with 3 children to live in the wilderness unfit, especially one who has taken up with a local cowboy." The threat was finally out in the open. "I have not taken up with anyone. Mr. Hawkins is an honorable man." "I am sure, but a judge back in Richmond might see it differently," Jeb purred. "I'm just trying to help, Clara. Come back to Virginia with me. Let me handle the land. And if I refuse," the kindness vanished from his face, "then I will have no choice but to file for custody of my brother's children. I have rights." Clara's fear turned to pure rage. "You have no rights. You are nothing to them. I am their uncle. And when the court hears about the widow living in sin—" "Get out," Clara's voice shook. "Get out of my school and stay away from my children." "You are making a mistake," he warned, placing his hat back on his head. "I will be at the boarding house. Think about what is best for those girls." He walked away, leaving Clara trembling, but she did not tell Samuel. A part of her was ashamed and deeply afraid that Jeb's wicked words might just be enough to ruin everything. Samuel could tell something was wrong. "You've barely touched your supper, Clara," he said one evening, seeing past her excuses. "What is it?" He reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "I just need time," she said, hating the lie in her own voice. He looked hurt but simply nodded. "You don't have to face it alone," he said from the doorway. After he left, Ellie appeared. "Why didn't you tell him about that man, Thomas's brother?" she said. "I saw him at the school. He's a bad man, Mama. I could feel it." Ellie gave her a hard look, the same one her father used to get right before he turned mean. Clara knew she was pushing away the one man who could help. "That's just foolish, Mama." Ellie's voice sharpened. "Mr. Sam would do anything for us, but you're too scared to let him. That's what that man wants." The truth of it hit Clara hard. "How did you get so smart?" she whispered. "I've watched you for 11 years. I learned what not to do." Clara let out a tired laugh. "You're right. I'm making a mess of this." "Then fix it. Tell Mr. Sam," Ellie insisted. "And if that man takes us to court, we'll just run again. But I don't think it'll come to that. Mr. Sam won't let it happen." Clara thought of Samuel's quiet strength, how he was always there when she needed him most. "I suppose I do have a lot of faith in him," she admitted. "Then trust him, please." Clara pulled her daughter close. "When did you get to be the grown-up?" Ellie's muffled voice replied, "Somebody had to." Clara smiled. "All right, I'll tell him tomorrow." But tomorrow brought trouble right to her doorstep. Jeb Whitmore was on her porch, talking to Lily. "There's my favorite girl," he said, holding out a piece of candy. Clara flew through the door. Lily, get inside now. Her voice was pure ice. The little girl obeyed, confused. What do you think you're doing here? Clara demanded, blocking the doorway. Hey, I'm their uncle, just paying a visit. You have no right, she shot back. Stay away from my children. Jeb's smile vanished. You're making this harder than it has to be, Clara. Just come home. This place, he sneered at the small cabin, is nothing but poverty. You deserve better. I deserve to make my own choices, to live without fear. Jeb stepped toward her, his anger finally showing. You ungrateful. That's close enough. The voice came from behind Clara, low and dangerous. It was Samuel. He moved between them, his stance ready. And who in the hell are you? Jeb sneered. Samuel Hawkins. And you're on private land, threatening a woman I'm looking after. Looking after? Jeb laughed. The whole town knows what kind of looking after you've been doing. Samuel didn't even flinch. I'm only saying this one time. Leave now. Don't you ever come near them again. Or what? Jeb challenged. You don't scare me. I have legal rights to those children. You have nothing. Samuel's voice was quiet, but it made Jeb take a step back. She is their mother, and any court round here will see it that way. We ain't staying round here. We're going back to Virginia, where a man's family has rights. Samuel gave a cold smile. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to get on your horse, pack your bags, and take the next stagecoach east. You will never contact them again. And if I don't, then I'll have the sheriff arrest you for trespassing and a few other things. And while you're in jail, my lawyer in Richmond will be making sure every judge back home hears about what you've been up to. Jeb's face turned red. You're bluffing. Try me. After a long, tense moment, Jeb looked away. This ain't over, he muttered, but the fight was gone from his voice. You can't protect her forever. Watch me. Jeb stomped to his horse, gave Clara one last hateful look, and rode off fast. Clara's knees buckled. Samuel caught her, his arms a solid comfort around her. It's all right, he said softly. He's gone. You're safe, well. I should have told you, she cried into his chest. Hush now. He held her tight. We'll talk later. For now, just breathe. So she did, letting his strength hold her up. Inside, three little faces were pressed against the window. Is the bad man gone, Mama? Lily called out. He's gone, sweetie, Clara called back. He won't be bothering us anymore. Samuel gently stepped back. I meant what I said. I will protect all of you. I know, Clara said, wiping her face. I should have trusted you. Yes, you should have, he said gently. Will he really stay away? Men like him are cowards, Samuel said, his jaw tight. They only pick on folks they think are weak. The minute you stand up to them, they fold. I've known plenty of men like him. He looked at her, his expression serious. What I did back there, it was partly to protect you, but I was also fighting for my own future, for the family I hope to build with you. Clara's breath hitched. Sam, we said we'd take things slow. I know, but when I saw him on your porch with Lily, something inside me just snapped. The thought of losing you, of losing these girls, I can't. I won't let that happen. You won't have to, she whispered, placing her hand over his heart. We're not going anywhere. Promise me. I promise. He kissed her then, a quick, desperate kiss that tasted of relief and sealed a promise they both felt deep in their souls. From inside the cabin, Lily's voice piped up. Mama, are you and Mr. Sam done kissing? I'm hungry. Clara let out a laugh. We better get inside. Wait, Samuel said, holding her hand. There's something I need to tell you first. I love you, Clara Whitmore. I love your stubborn, fighting spirit, and I love your beautiful girls. I love everything about you. He paused. I don't expect you to say it back. I just needed you to know. Clara's heart felt like it would burst. Sam, she started. I don't... He gently touched her lips. Don't say it till you're sure. I can wait. But looking at the man who had stood between her and all her fears, she knew. She was already sure. I love you too, she said, pulling his hand away. I love your patience, your kindness, and even that ridiculous old dog of yours. I love that you see my girls as a blessing, not a burden. A huge smile transformed Samuel's face, erasing years of grief and worry. "Well," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I suppose that settles it then. I suppose it does." Jeb Whitmore left on the afternoon stage, just as Samuel predicted. Clara watched from the window as Jeb boarded, his face a mask of fury. He never looked her way. Mrs. Jensen, who ran the boarding house, stood beside her. "Good riddance," she said. "I have been doing this for 15 years. I can spot a man like that. He asked too many questions about you and the girls." Clara shivered, realizing Mrs. Jensen was right. She should have seen the danger herself. As the coach vanished in a swirl of dust, Clara finally took a full breath. "Is the bad man really gone?" Lily asked, tugging on her mother's dress. "Yes, he is really gone," Claire answered. "Good," the little girl said. His smile was not a real one. Even a 4-year-old could see the truth. Across the room, Samuel's eyes met hers, asking if she was all right. She gave him a small nod. A deep peace settled over them. The weeks that followed were calm. With school out for the summer, they spent long days at Samuel's ranch. The girls ran free, and Lily asked Samuel endless questions. "Do horses dream?" she asked one day. "I reckon they do," he answered patiently, "about open fields and being fast." "Do you dream about being fast?" Lily asked him. Samuel chuckled. "Not so much anymore. These days my dreams are about quieter things." His gaze found Clara across the yard. "Like home." A little while later, Ellie appeared from the barn. She asked if she could take a horse to the south pasture. 3 months ago, Clara's fear would have made her say no. But things were different now. She was different. "All right," she said, "but be back before sunset." Ellie's face lit up with a brilliant smile, and she was gone. "She has more grit than most grown men," Samuel said, watching her go. He moved to stand beside Clara. "Your girls are remarkable because of you." Clara leaned into him. "I could not have done this without you," she admitted. He put his arm around her. "Surviving is not the same as living," she told him. "You taught me that." That evening, as they sat on his porch, Samuel took her hands. His voice was serious. "I have been thinking about the future, Clara. I have been thinking about what I hope for." He looked at her directly. "My hope is for you and for the girls." He spoke of a life together, of simple mornings and shared sunsets. "I have been slow for 5 years, Clara," he said softly, "grieving and pushing people away. I do not want to be slow anymore. I want to live with you." He then pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a simple gold ring with a single diamond. "This was my mother's. She told me to save it for someone who made my heart feel full again. You do that, Clara." His eyes were bright with emotion as he asked, "Will you marry me? Will you build a life with me?" She thought of every reason to be afraid. But then she thought of all the reasons to say yes. She thought of his kindness, his patience, and the way he made her feel safe for the first time in years. "Yes," she whispered, her voice growing stronger. "Yes, I will marry you." He slid the ring onto her finger and pulled her into a tender kiss. "We have to tell the girls," she said a moment later. Just then the screen door banged open. Lily's voice rang out. "They are kissing again!" Ellie was right behind her. "Did he finally ask you, Mama?" she demanded. "Mr. Sam asked my permission 2 weeks ago." Clara stared at Samuel, who simply shrugged. She is the oldest. It seemed like the right thing to do. Ellie admitted she had given Samuel a tough interrogation. "He passed," she announced with a serious nod. Rose then asked shyly, "Does this mean we get to live here at the ranch?" "Yes, baby," Clara said, her heart swelling. "This is our home." Samuel knelt to look Rose in the eye. "You can call me Sam or whatever you want. I am just happy to be part of your family." Rose wrapped her small arms around his neck. Lily immediately jumped in. "I want to call you Papa." Soon they were all in one big, happy hug, and Clara cried tears of pure joy. "Will the happiness last, Mama?" Ellie asked quietly, standing apart from the hug. Clara put an arm around her. "Happiness is something you have to fight for, baby. In this family, it is worth the fight." Ellie confessed she still missed her father. "I know," Clara said softly. "Your heart is big enough to hold both your memories and your future." With new resolve, Ellie walked over to the group. "Sam," she said clearly, "welcome to the family." And she joined the hug, completing their circle. They were married that September, and the entire town of Copper Springs came to celebrate. With wildflowers in her hair, Clara found her girls waiting in their new dresses. At the altar, Samuel stood looking awfully nervous next to Sheriff Cole. Mayor Patterson met her at the door to walk her down the aisle. "I'm glad I was wrong about you," he told her quietly. "You have been good for this town, and Lord knows you have been good for Sam." Her heart swelled. "Thank you, Mayor." On the walk down the aisle, Clara only had eyes for Samuel. He was standing there, tall and steady, his expression a mix of pure joy and disbelief. The moment he took her hands, the rest of the church simply faded away. Reverend Crane's words washed over her, a comforting sound in the distance. All that mattered was Samuel's gaze and his hands holding hers, anchoring her to this new life. "Do you, Samuel Thomas Hawkins, Do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" The Reverend's question hung in the air. Clara looked at Samuel. He had pulled her up from nothing, fought for her, and loved her and her girls without condition. "I do." With those words, Reverend Crane pronounced them husband and wife. "You may kiss the bride." Samuel cupped her face and gave her a tender kiss that made her knees go weak. The whole church cheered. Lily was the loudest of all, while Rose clapped shyly and a huge smile lit up Ellie's face. "I love you, Mrs. Hawkins," Samuel whispered. "I love you too, Mr. Hawkins." They faced the crowd hand in hand, and Clara knew in her bones she was finally home. The party moved from the church to the town square. Every family in Copper Springs had brought food for the feast. Clara walked through the crowd in a happy haze, her hand always in Samuel's. The girls ran around with the other children, full of cake and pure joy. "You look happy," Mrs. Jensen said to her. "I am," Clara answered, terrified but happy. The older woman squeezed her hand. "You've earned this, Clara. Don't you forget it." "Thank you for everything," Clara said. "For the room, the job, just for being there." "Hush now," Mrs. Jensen said with a twinkle in her eye. "That is what family does, and we are all family here." As evening came, the crowd thinned out. "Time to get you home," Samuel said, coming to her side. "The girls are dead on their feet." Lily was curled up in a chair, fast asleep. Rose leaned against Ellie, who was trying hard not to nod off herself. Sheriff Cole gently lifted Lily. "I'll get Rose," Mrs. Everett said. Friends helped load the three sleepy girls into the wagon. Home. The word felt different now. It meant the ranch, with a room for each girl. It meant Samuel. Clara sat beside her husband on the wagon seat and leaned against his shoulder. "Ready?" he asked. She smiled. "I have been ready for a long time." As the wagon rolled out of town, they passed the schoolhouse and the little cabin where she first stayed. They passed the spot where a stagecoach had left her with 3 children and just 12 cents to her name. So much had changed. "Sam," she said softly as the town lights disappeared. "I was so scared when I first came here. I was sure I would make the same mistakes and lose everything all over again." "I am still scared sometimes," she admitted. "But the fear is not bigger than me anymore. You and the girls did that. You made me brave enough to hope." Samuel put a warm, strong arm around her. "You were always brave, Clara. You just needed someone to see it." He grew quiet for a moment. "Sometimes I wonder if I deserve all this happiness. But then I hear Lily's laugh or see Rose coming out of her shell, and I know." This felt right. Samuel knew Mary would have wanted him to move forward, not drown in sorrow. He smiled, thinking she would have liked Clara. Ahead, the ranch house glowed, a warm, welcome home. This was their life now. Samuel helped Clara from the wagon, then carried each of his sleeping new daughters inside. He placed them in their own beds, in rooms that were finally theirs. Once the last girl was tucked in, he and Clara met in the hallway. "We actually did it," she whispered. He took her hands. "Yes, we did. And now we have a whole lifetime of days together." He pulled her close. "And it will never be enough." Clara rested her head on his chest, thinking of the long road that brought her here. She remembered the desperate advertisement and the abandoned stagecoach stop where she had prayed for a miracle. A miracle had come, not in the man she expected, but in a quiet rancher with gentle hands who saw her at her worst and chose to lift her up. "Sam," she said softly, "thank you for saving us." He pulled back, his gaze serious. "Clara, you and those girls saved yourselves. I just opened a door." Later that night, in a bed that was truly hers, Clara listened to the peaceful sounds of the ranch. Samuel slept beside her, his arm draped over her as if to say she was precious. She was no longer alone. She knew tomorrow would bring chores and new challenges because life was never simple, but it would also bring laughter and quiet evenings on the porch. Through it all, Samuel would be there, her partner and her love. Clara had arrived in Copper Springs with three little girls and only 12 cents to her name. She was running from a painful past toward a future she could not imagine. Now she was Clara Hawkins, a wife, a mother, and a woman who found the courage to hope again. This was not an ending. This was where her real story began.